Mugen Gumi e yokoso. Welcome to Mugen Gumi. This being the 5th session so far, and we left you in suspense the last time, our heroes having managed to come to an impasse. Black opened with the Bogin Opening. White successfully met it, doing exactly the right thing, putting enough defensive power in that position to make continuing the attack by Black extremely unattractive. So, what do we do from this point? What should you do? Conventional shogi wisdom will tell you this is the time to build your defense. And the reason for that is, as matters stood at the conclusion of last session, Black had unsuccessfully opened the attack. White had successfully met it. The attractiveness of continuing the attack really wasn't there, and the truth of the matter is White was much better positioned defensively to continue the game. On the off chance that the bishops were exchanged, for example, that would open extreme possibilities, the way that the pieces were arranged at the end of last session, for White to mount a successful attack against Black, putting the shoe on the other foot. So, I will demonstrate biding your time, preparing your defense, and then mounting a counterattack, or mounting an attack rather, continuing your attack at a more opportune time. Okay then, so this was the position of affairs at the end of the last session. White has a strongly defended position here. Black opened with Bogin, got as far as this point. Ordinarily, you'd invite battle by dropping this pawn here. Right now, these circumstances are not favorable for doing that, and it just would be a bad idea to continue the attack at this point. What you also notice is that this diagonal has been opened, so that Black has the possibility of starting something else along these lines. Again, the central point fixture here is the silver here, but there's still not enough strength focused on either the avenues of approach here to really successfully pull anything off. And a mere exchange of pieces, if it were limited to just that, would still not be a very satisfactory result, considering the fact that Black has invested so many moves into getting silver up to this point. Just as the case is in chess, there's a certain tempo to the game, and the number of moves consumed early in the game can come back to haunt you much later in the game. By the same token, Black's position defensively is not particularly good. If the situation were to get a little more free, as expressed by having pieces available to drop at will, it could get very messy for Black, because these two pawns here are unsupported, and so those could very well turn into the proverbial door that gets kicked in, and could end the game. So White's position is a lot better, because White already has a kin, or gold, in front of the emperor, or Ol-sama, and also has a fairly strong position over on this side of the board here, in which to push the king in that direction. So we can expect movement in this direction as the game proceeds. Okay, so what do? You start building your defense if you're Black, and wait for the opportune moment to continue the attack at that point. So we start drifting in that direction. So we've moved the emperor, or Ol-sama, over. Okay, and that gets met by, which further strengthens the position on this side of the board for White. Maybe overmuch, maybe not. Okay. Time to get silver moving. So this provides some security here for Osama. Potentially these two spaces are covered in the event that something transpires in the back rank here. Gin provides no support to Kin on this side, but does support the three squares in front. Meantime, Kin provides support to either flank and to the front. So you have double coverage here, so that's typically a positive. Okay. All right. And we get a symmetrical move on the other side of the board. Okay. And then we move Kin up here. So now we have coverage all the way across on the pawns here. This pawn and this pawn are covered by the knight back here. So Black has succeeded in significantly strengthening his position on this side of the board. Okay. White answers by pushing a pawn forward. Black advances a pawn. White starts drifting in the anticipated direction. Okay, advance another pawn. Seems that White's adopting the when in doubt push a pawn philosophy. Maybe a good idea, maybe not. Bear in mind that pawns cannot retreat, so once you commit, you commit. So, but be that as it may, that's the move that's made. Okay. So we advance the knight up here. So now this is double covered. Advance another pawn. Advance the middle pawn. Advance silver. So he's providing cover here. So all of his pawns are guarded. Well, now things get interesting. This provokes something. Because if he doesn't respond to it, then I advance the pawn and it starts breaking up his line here. If I were to take if he did nothing about this, moved another piece, I took this, then he'd have to take it with either the gold or the silver, and that may not be helpful from the perspective of his defense, because it does break up some of the interdependencies that exist here. And so the predictable thing happens. Okay. So we do this. And he advances here. So in a way, Black has won because we have now disrupted the arrangements, possibly, that White was making in terms of a defense. Another point, though, is that White has also made a critical mistake, because the silver in this position right here was the linchpin of the defense right here. So, by biding his time, building his defense, developing a few more pieces, Black has now succeeded in setting the conditions to go ahead with what should have been his next move, or what might rightfully have been his next move, had White not so adeptly constructed a defense against the Bogin. So, okay. So as expected, this happens. But it's a fair trade, because as Black, you've achieved the positional advantage that you were after from the very beginning. So you do this. Possibly seems counterintuitive. And White takes it with the only piece that it can take it with. And Black responds predictably. Note that the promotions in both cases were immediate. In the latter case, it's required. There's no choice about it, and again, once again, there's absolutely no advantage to deferring the promotion. And the same holds true for Kaku when he went across the board here and forced the exchange. Absolutely no disadvantage to promoting. And so, all right. In any case, it's all over now because both pieces have been captured, so it's rather a moot point, which is sometimes the case. Okay, so that doesn't leave White many options, so there we are. And then Black makes this move. It might seem counterintuitive, but what this does is it really puts White in a bind. You can't ignore it, and you can't ignore it if you're White, any which way you cut this. And so, what exactly do you do at this point? White can take silver with his pawn, and we'll just leave him like this, since it's notional. And then, most surely, this will happen. Well, that opens some interesting possibilities, doesn't it? If you're Black. So, that's one initial approach. You take it through this. Well, then this happens. And so the game gets really interesting from this point. And this is where we're going to stop with this, because the whole idea was to get the setup for the Bogin opening, to go through the process of going through an opening, possibly being frustrated by your opponent, who has successfully defended against it, not pushing forward, exercising some tactical patience here, not pushing forward regardless, and instead taking care of a little business at home with your defense and waiting for White to make a mistake, a tactical mistake that you can exploit. And that is exactly what has happened in this case. Yes, it's a canned scenario, but it just demonstrates the value of taking the time as a player to develop the situation a little more fully, and to give yourself the ability to defend yourself, which in turn provides you more flexibility in terms of what you can do in terms of continuing the offensive, continuing to attack. So I leave you with this because this is a position that has many different possibilities. You know, there are a variety of different ways that white can respond to this. One of them is to try this. Still means that white will lose materially, but but this may transform this particular game and provide the avenue that's going to allow black to win, bearing in mind that both sides now have a bishop to play, and that's big. The position in which black's king or Osama is a good position. White's position is a little more doubtful because Osama has an awful lot of blank space around him, and so given enough space somewhere, black may have the opportunity to drop his kaku or bishop with far greater effect than white can, at least at this moment. Like with any game, things may change drastically. But in this case, despite the material disadvantage that black appears to have, you know, one knight down, positionally, black's in much better shape. Well, I hope you found that very interesting and informative, and thought-provoking. If you do have a board at home, by all means, cycle through some of the options that you have available to you, playing from the perspective of the white player. It's really an interesting position, and there are multiple ways to try to solve it, but at the end of the day, that one is a bit of that introduces a disadvantage to white as the game might progress, barring a significant miscalculation on black's part. So again, as always, if you like what I'm trying to do here, please hit the like button, and if the topic interests you and enough, then by all means subscribe. I very much enjoy doing these things. This one started getting interesting, and I assure you that I'm going to present some further scenarios that should be very interesting as well, and just continue at this relatively slow pace to help absorb some of the information that I'm trying to give you. And well, until next time.